Describe what you think the community would be like or miss if the Nuci space had never shown up.
Oh, wow. At the extreme most sad end, I would say there'll be an awful lot more people dead in this area.
Nuci's my son, and he had suffered from depression for about 5 years. And he had made a serious suicide attempt in 1991, and that's when he started getting help. He was diagnosed with depression and started receiving help then. And did really well, came to the University of Georgia in 1992, and he struggled. He had good times and bad times. And in 1996, I think he got tired and realized just how sick he was, and he had told us he did not want to spend his life in and out of hospitals. And I think he just really ran out of energy, and he killed himself. So that was in 1996, and we knew that we wanted to do something to remember him. And he was a musician, and also having suffered from depression, we wanted to do something with music and depression, and we wanted it to be something hands-on that went directly to the person who suffered from depression. So I just came up with the idea one day of founding a place where musicians can practice, and with the money that we made from practice rooms, we could use that to pay for the mental health counseling. And then that's how Nuci Space got started.
What Nuci Space does, providing low cost or free in some case links to medical and psychological counseling, providing a place where local musicians can rehearse for an affordable amount of money, providing a place where local support groups can meet, providing a place where young people can hang out, providing music-based summer camps for kids and after-school programs for kids, and just the general goodwill that Nuci Space generates in Athens. It's of tremendous benefit to the town of Athens.
Obviously, I knew nothing about starting a nonprofit. This is something I never even thought about doing. So when I came up with the idea to do Nuci Space, I talked to our family lawyer. And one of the things he said, you know, first we'll establish the Nuci Phillips Memorial Foundation. And that's what we did. And then the next thing we did was to get our 501c3 tax deductible paper from the IRS. That was not easy. One reason it wasn't easy was it's always been really hard to articulate what this place is all about, and a lot of people don't get it. They don't get the why music and mental health. They don't get the connection.
Linda Phillips faced a lot of challenges when it came to starting Nuci Space. Just the logistics of where do you build it? How do you build it? What does this building need? Where should we divide the walls? How should we soundproof the rooms? Where does this go? Where does that go? How do we become a nonprofit? How do we fund this thing? How do we convince people to give us money? How do we decide who gets what link to what kind of help and how much it costs? So there are a lot of little things that go into running something like Nuci Space.
As far as running the space, I didn't want my face on it. I wanted other musicians. I wanted this to be a place run by peers, because that's what's going to attract musicians to come into the space.
I first learned about Nuci Space through a fundraising event they were having at the 40 Watt. I was working at the Last Resort Grill at the time. I was heavily involved in the music scene, being a musician and helping with things like Athfest and that sort of thing. And I didn't meet Linda that night, but I got her email address. And I emailed her, and we kind of started a relationship. And
Sent me an email saying he liked what he'd read and was very interested in wanting to help and wondered if he could meet me. So Bob and I met, and the thing I loved about his email was it was written in a very thoughtful, sincere way. And so Bob and I met, and it just, I think we hit it off from the beginning.
I credit Linda's lack of hiring skills. Had never run a nonprofit before, so, but actually the thing that I'm very thankful for is that she saw something in me that I hadn't seen yet. At first it was just Linda and myself, working most days, and the building hadn't been renovated yet, so I worked out of my house and would come here and make sure doors were being put in the right places and that sort of thing. So, I've kind of learned on the job.
When Nuci Space first started, the organization was Linda. That's all there was. And then Linda recruited a few other people to come together around her as a small cadre of advisors. She needed a director, and she found Bob, or I think Bob may have found her, and he was the perfect man for the job.
You've got to get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and then you go. But people, it's everything.
My job as an executive director is mainly to hire really great people and make sure they have the tools to do their job that I asked them to do, and make sure that that job is clearly laid out, and then get out of the way. Our staff has grown from basically me being this sole employee to we have 4 full-time staff and 5 part-time staff, which is still a small staff for the number of hours that we're open, but it's we've grown pretty dramatically. I think in the past couple of years I started changing how we kind of manage and govern. When we do board meetings, I invite everybody. The staff comes to board meetings. As long as we have the permission of the president for everybody to come, I want them in the room. Because before, what was happening is that the board would come talk to me, and then I would be the bottleneck for everything, and then it would go back out to the staff, and it would slow down the whole process. And so what we wanted to do was change that and have staff members involved in everything that we do. And when we do our annual retreat, we have board members, staff members, we have key volunteers that come, so everybody can kind of give their feedback. And what that allows us to do is to create a vision that we're all a part of.
Our staff here, each one, and board of directors and volunteers and clients, everybody has a place. And we are literally all cogs working in the same machine. And it's like, my role could absolutely not be fulfilled without Debbie doing the fundraising to pay for the clients that come in to have their treatment. And without the volunteers working on the front desk, Debbie couldn't do her job because she would be answering the telephones rather than asking people for money. Christy wouldn't be able to work on campaigns without the volunteers. And it's like every one of us has a role. And as soon as one's taken out, whether it be volunteers, or whether it be Bob, or whether it be Dave, whoever it is that's removed, everything starts to fall in on itself because everyone else is having to try and fill that gap.
One of the things I hate most in life is fundraising. I do not like asking for money. And that's not a very good thing when you want to start a nonprofit.
Trying to figure out who we are and what we do, and then most importantly, how do we tell other people that? And until you can do that, it makes fundraising very, very hard. So money was another big obstacle at first.
I wrote a letter to everybody I knew and or ever even looked at or smiled at, and telling them what I wanted to do and asking them to help me with money. And I got back $30,000 from that.
And because we built a reputation, it makes fundraising a little bit easier, but it's always still hard. 70% of our income comes from individuals, so it's you know, every January 1st, it's a battle to get the budget that we set out to do. I think the board has probably been has had the greatest amount of change since we've been open. As it is with most beginning boards, it was mostly Linda's friends when we first started out, and that is great in some ways because you have a whole group of loyal people that will show up and be cheerleaders. But the unfortunate part about that is they're not really good at governance, especially in something that is so closely tied to the founder. No one in those beginning stages would ever tell Linda no.
The board of Nuci's space over time has gotten bigger and more diverse, and as it has, I think it's absolutely made things run better at the space because you just have a wider arsenal of ideas to pick from.
Think of succession planning as you do from day one. I want people to feel that, first of all, they're invested in what we do. And so there's not an aspect of Nuci Space they shouldn't know about. And that we also should know what other people's jobs are, and that we are a team.
What I really wanted to make sure was, I mean, we didn't look to found something that would last in our lifetime and then be gone. We wanted something that would have a longevity and would continue on.
So to get to that place where you have to basically step away and let it kind of thrive on its own, I can only imagine how difficult that is.
But I realized it would be easier for the board to make certain decisions without having to worry about what Linda would say, in a sense, or not making a decision because they think Linda may not agree. That kind of thing. Also with the staff, as long as I was here, the staff looked at me as the boss rather than at Bob. And Bob, you know, he was the boss.
Although it was difficult for Linda to leave, she knew it was time, and she knew that Nuci Space was in good hands.
I think one of the things that I attribute our success to is so simple and so basic, and it's really just common humanity.
Really, the foundation of how Nuci Space works is incredibly simple. It's, you know, basically being kind to one another. You know, somebody comes through the door, you want them to feel welcome. And if they need help, you treat them the same way you would treat a friend, you know. And this isn't a business for us. This is, you know, we're trying to help people.
The best thing that Linda did is lead by example, and to always put the mission of the space and the people that it helps above any personal agenda. The best advice I can give to any nonprofit organization is to find a way to let the maximum number of people take ownership in the program, encourage people to get involved, present people with opportunities to volunteer, present people with opportunities to give whatever it is they can afford, even if that's $5 or 5 minutes of their time. People seem, you know, buy into and believe when they feel like they're part of something, and I think that's an atmosphere that's absolutely been fostered by Bob and Linda's leadership, is that the more people that are involved, the more people that feel like they are Nuci Space, the better off we are, the stronger we are, the more successful that we are in our mission. And I do think that would be true of any nonprofit organization.
And your staff have to feel as though they're part of it. It's like, I feel that I am Nuci Space, and everybody else here is Nuci Space, and you being involved in this makes you Nuci Space. The community is Nuci Space, and we're all invested in making this organisation the best it can be.